Hello, everyone. This is All Star Hoop Talk with Shane
and Ethan, because every team needs an all-star.
All right, so we're coming back at you tonight, and we're just kind of recapping some of the NBA playoffs that has happened. And, not a lot has happened since we last met, but the playoffs are still going on. They're still, going towards the semi-conference. And a lot of things are happening. I mean, look at the Eastern Conference, Ethan. The Pacers and Knicks, they're tied up now. What do you think about that?
I'm actually kind of happy because if the Knicks won, they would have led 3-1, and that wouldn't have been good for my prediction. So I'm glad that they won, and I think they can win the next two games, but they're probably not going to win the next two games, so it might go to Game 7.
When you say they, who you mean? And the Knicks
the
or
Pacers.
the Pacers? The Pacers. Because that's who you have predicted, hasn't it? And so now both teams have won on their home court decisively. I mean, the Pacers kind of blew out the Knicks today. It was just, embarrassing to kind of watch after a point because it was just a blowout. And so I wonder if the Pacers, they had the momentum in that game one. They should have won it. There was some questionable calls by the refs, but hey, the refs do their job as they're human. You got to let them do that. And so had they won that game, I think we'd be in a completely different situation right now. What do you think?
Yeah, I think that they would probably be up 3-1.
Do you think they would have swept?
Well, actually, maybe, because even the second game, they played really well, and it's only because Jalen Brunson came back and played the full fourth quarter that they lost.
He was on fire at the end of that game. So these last two games in Indiana, the Pacers, they've been like on fire. They've been just saying, hey, look, we're here. We're not going away. You got to deal with this. What do you think they're going to do at the next game? Game 5, pivotal Game 5 in New York, Madison Square Garden.
I think they're going to win. They have the talent to. They've done it before. I think after trial and error for 2 times already, I think they're going to get it done in Madison Square Garden.
So you think they're going to be up 3-2 after that Game 5?
Yeah.
And that'll be pivotal because then the series will hinge on just one more game.
Mm-hmm.
And typically the winner of Game 5 goes on to win the series, don't they?
Yeah, it's like an 81.7% chance, I think.
That's a strong percentage.
Yeah, but it's not 100%.
It is not, but that's a really strong percentage. If you don't win Game 5, you've got barely a 20% chance of winning. Not even a 20% chance.
Yeah.
So that's got to be a mental game, don't you think?
Yeah, definitely.
Okay. And so we've got the Boston Celtics and Cleveland Cavaliers. So Boston is currently winning 2-1, and they play again tomorrow in Cleveland. What do you think the outcome of that game is going to be? Do you think Cleveland's going to go down 3-1?
No, I think the Celtics are going to win the game, and after that, the Cavaliers are just going to win one more game, and then the Celtics are going to get the job done in Ohio.
So you think it'll go to Game 6?
Yep.
Just like you predicted?
Yep.
And what do you think that's going to do for Davion Mitchell?
Oh, he's going to want out of Cleveland.
Really?
Yeah.
Why?
Because he said that if he doesn't make it to at least the conference finals, he wants out of Cleveland and to be on a better team, a championship contending team.
But he has taken Cleveland further in the playoffs than they have been since they had LeBron. After he was there, went to Miami, and he came back and won a championship with them. They haven't been to this position since, have they?
No.
So Don't you think he's got a great opportunity?
Yeah, he does, but he might have a greater opportunity with some of the other teams.
Who do you think he'd want to go with? Do you think he'd want to stay in the East? He came from the West with the Jazz. Do you think he'd want to go back to the West, or do you think he wants to stay in the East?
I think he might go back to the West.
Really?
Yeah.
Why?
I don't know. It's just that the West, the competition is harder. The teams are better there, and he could go to a lot of really good teams. So I think the chance for him going onto a good team, it's higher in the West.
But now, hasn't the Eastern Conference been better than the Western Conference this year?
It's been okay. The Celtics have been the best team in the league, but the Knicks were like 10 games worse, and they were a 2 seed. And then 76ers, who were the best team in the play-in tournament, the Hawks, who were the worst, they were 10 games worse than the 76ers. So the competition, it was not the greatest.
So who had the best record in the NBA overall? I thought it was the Celtics.
Yeah, it was.
Was it? Were they just the only dominant team in the East, or did you have the West kind of putting up a good fight and everybody was just kind of fighting for, playoff contention in the West?
The Celtics, they had secured a playoff spot well before everyone else in the East did, but at the end in the West, it came down to the last game in the regular series to decide the number 1 seed in the West. So it was a little bit more exciting in the West.
So the West was a lot closer.
Yeah.
Okay. And so I don't remember, but was say the number 6 seed, the Phoenix Suns, that, that's the cutoff before you fall into the play-in tournament. Did the Suns have a better record than like the 76ers that barely made it through the play-in tournament in the East? I don't know. Do you recall off the top of your head if that was the case?
I think so.
Okay. That might be something we have to look into. But now going on to the Western side, we've kind of talked about the Eastern side enough. So talking about the Thunder versus Mavericks, what have you thought about that one? The Mavs are up 2-1 now, and they play again tomorrow in Dallas. What do you think? What's going to happen there?
I am surprised that the Thunder have fallen against the Mavericks, and I thought the Thunder were going to win in maybe 5 to 6 games, but I think it might go to a game 6 or game 7 if the Thunder even win. Now,
hold up. Now, my notes from your previous predictions, you said Thunder was going to win in 6 to 7 games. Now you're saying you thought they'd win in 5 to 6?
The 6 is still there.
The 6 is still there. Okay. But you were just thinking maybe it could have been done in 5.
Yeah.
Okay. So anywhere between 5 to 7 games they could have won.
Yeah.
Okay. But you still think the Thunder will come back even though they're down 2-1?
Yeah, I think it might be a game 7 series.
Okay. So they're going back to Dallas tomorrow. Do you think Denver's going to pull it up and tie up the series?
Yeah.
So after tomorrow night, it'll be 2-2 in the series.
Yep.
Okay. That'll be a good matchup to watch, won't it?
Yep.
Okay. So then the last one is the Timberwolves and Nuggets. And that game is currently at halftime. And the Timberwolves and Nuggets, Minnesota is leading 2-1, but at halftime, Minnesota was down. And there was an amazing, it was more than a half-court shot by Jamal Murray. Jamal Murray, that was considered the Lakers' killer, during the first round. Do you think he's going to be the Timberwolves killer?
No. I think the Nuggets will win this game, and it will be a tied series. But I think the Timberwolves will either win the next 2 games or win one. The Nuggets will win one, and then the Timberwolves will win the final one.
Okay. So this will go to a game
6 or 7.
6 or 7. So that's going to be another good series to watch, huh?
Yep.
Okay. So things are kind of heating up in the West still. And which conference do you think is better to watch? Do you think it's better to watch the West or the East? Which series do you like watching the most?
I like watching really the 6 versus 2 seed Pacers and Knicks series in the East, and then the Timberwolves and Nuggets series in the West. The Celtics and Cavaliers, to me, I kind of don't have any interest in that because I know that the Celtics are going to win. And then the Thunder and Mavericks, even though it's a close series, I don't find myself watching that too often for some reason.
Okay. So you like the number 3 and number 2 Timberwolves and Nuggets, and the number 6 Pacers and number 2 Knicks as your good games to watch.
Yeah.
Okay. And it's a good thing that those games, I believe, are on alternating days, aren't they?
No, they're on the same days.
Are they?
Yeah.
Oh, they are. And so, like tomorrow, we can just take a day off and not watch basketball? Is that what you're saying?
No.
Still want to do that, don't we?
Yeah.
Okay. So now, what else happened today that was of interest?
The NBA draft lottery, which decided the first 14 picks in the NBA draft.
So, why is that significant?
Well, the 14 teams that didn't make the NBA playoffs, such as the Sacramento Kings, they get to participate in the draft lottery where the worse you were, the higher chance you had at getting the number 1 pick.
Okay. So, who got the number 1 overall pick today?
The Atlanta Hawks. However, they only had a 3% chance of getting the number 1 pick, while the Washington Wizards and Detroit Pistons had a 14% chance of getting the number 1 pick.
So what date are they going to select their number 1 overall draft pick?
June 27th.
27th or was it 26th?
27th.
Okay. I thought it was it's the 26th though. Right?
I thought it was the 27th.
Oh. I thought it was the 26th and the second round would be on the 27th. Right? Yeah, looking at this right here. The first round will be held in Barclays Center, Brooklyn, New York on Wednesday, June 26th. Right?
Yeah.
Okay. So that's when Atlanta should take the number 1 overall seed. And as we do more of these podcasts and as the playoffs kind of wrap up, we'll kind of look at that. And we'll say, who do you think they're going to take? And we'll analyze each one of these teams when we get closer. So that's something to kind of look forward to when you're listening to us as to what's going to happen on the off season. Just because the playoffs are wrapping up doesn't mean there's going to be nothing to talk about. We'll still have plenty to talk about, won't we, Ethan?
Yeah, definitely.
Okay. So after Atlanta, give us as many top picks as you want to give us.
Well, I'll start from the worst to the best. The Portland Trailblazers have the 14th pick because of Golden State gave them their pick. And they also have the 7th pick because that was their original pick. And then the Sacramento Kings only have the 13th pick. Then the Oklahoma City Thunder, who are the number 1 seed, got the 12th pick because of Houston.
So explain that to me. So you're saying San Antonio got it from Toronto and Oklahoma City got it from Houston. What does that mean? How does that even work? Explain that to me, please.
The teams decide to trade their picks for players or anything that you can trade for it. So that's how they acquired the pick.
So Toronto may have traded to San Antonio some phenomenal player, say, like Michael Jordan. We know he's not playing anymore, but just to give a hypothetical, if he was still playing, they would have, given him away in trade for San Antonio to get Toronto, or would it be the other way around? San Antonio would have traded Victor Wembanyama, or however you pronounce his name. I always butcher it.
Wembanyama.
There we go. To Toronto, so they could have got an Ant pick. Is that how that would have worked? Instead of Toronto trading away Jordan in a hypothetical?
No, Toronto would have traded, I guess, Jordan to San Antonio. And wait.
Would it have been San Antonio trading away a good player to Toronto to get a good pick?
Yeah, that's what happened. I'm getting confused.
So as we get past the playoffs, we're going to have to dig into this and see what that trade entailed to figure out what they did to get that number 8 seed, correct?
Yeah.
Okay. So give us the top 10. Who are the top 10 teams in the order that's going to be picked at the June 26th and 27th lottery for the NBA draft? Or not lottery, but draft.
For the number 1 pick, we have the Atlanta Hawks. Then, number 2, we have Washington Wizards. And then, number 3 pick, we got Houston Rockets from Brooklyn Nets. Number 4, we've got the San Antonio Spurs, which was their original pick. And then, number 5, we've got the Detroit Pistons. Number 6, Charlotte Hornets. Number 7, Portland Trailblazers. Number 8, the San Antonio Spurs, which they got from Toronto, which we were just discussing. Number 9, Memphis Grizzlies. Number 10, Utah Jazz.
Okay. So that rounds out the top 10 for the NBA draft. And so we'll analyze that as we get closer and we finish up the playoffs and everything. But it's going to be interesting to see how the draft starts to factor in and who gets who and everything like that. Now, Detroit, they were the worst team this year, weren't they?
Yeah.
So they got the number 5 pick instead of the number 1. Do you think that's going to be a big factor for them?
Yeah, I think so.
Do you think they're going to go big and get a big-time player like a Victor Wembanyama? How do you pronounce his name?
Wembanyama.
I'll get it right eventually. Do you think they'll go for somebody like that? Or do you think they're going to be so far down on the list that they're not going to be able to get somebody like that?
They're not going to be able to get someone like that. The Spurs won't even want to trade Victor Wembanyama.
No, I'm not saying that, but I'm just saying he was number 1 overall pick last year.
Mm-hmm.
And he made a big difference for them this year. Do you think Detroit at number 5 will have any significant picks still remaining in the 5 seed?
Yeah, they might, but this year's draft class isn't as good as last year's.
Why?
The players, I've never heard about them, but last year there was a lot of hype about the draft class, mostly because of Victor Wembanyama, but we saw Chet Holmgren and Victor Wembanyama going up against each other, and to me it was just a much better draft class. But this year, the ones that were supposed to go number 1 and number 2, ESPN said, they're from France, both of them.
I saw that. So that's another Victor
Wembanyama
situation, right?
Yeah.
So since I can't pronounce his last name, I'll just have you pronounce it for me. How's that?
Okay.
So it's going to be interesting, and once we finish up with the finals and stuff like that, we're definitely going to dig into the draft picks for every team, their chances of going to the finals and what everything means. So we'll just have to kind of figure this all out as it gets closer to the draft and everything. And then again, this week, what else is happening this week that's of interest?
Well, if you like to watch the WNBA, then the WNBA regular season starts Tuesday, May 14th.
Okay, and they've had like their biggest draft class in I don't know. I would say the entire history of the WNBA. You've got Reese, you've got Clark, you've got these phenomenal ladies that did amazing things in the college playoffs, in the March Madness and everything, that were drafted and are going to be facing off against each other again. What do you think about that?
I think there's going to be a lot more rivalries, and it's going to be a lot more fun to watch this year.
Do you think that'll bring a lot more viewership to the WNBA and a bigger fan base than they've previously had in the past?
Yeah.
Why?
The people have heard of Caitlin Clark like me. I've never watched the WNBA before. I might this year, and I plan to, but yeah, they're gonna get a lot more fans.
Yeah, she's an amazing shooter, isn't she?
Yeah.
So, all right. Well, I think unless there's anything else to talk about, I think that's all we got tonight. Do you have anything else you want to talk about tonight, Ethan?
Not really.
So we'll get back to that game that's currently going on right now, the Denver and Minnesota. And again, who do you think is going to win tonight?
I think Denver is going to win, but then Minnesota is going to win either the next two or the next one and win the next one after Denver wins.
Okay. All right. So that sounded a little confusing. So
Yeah.
So who's going to win tonight?
Denver.
Okay. And then who's going to win the next game?
Minnesota.
Okay. Back in Denver.
Yes.
Okay. There. We got a little clarification. Okay. So this is all we have for today with All-Star Hoop Talk. So follow, and download us wherever you can get your podcasts, and we'll talk to you later.